Hello again. Here is a question for viewers. If you allow the police in London to use their discretion in deciding whom they should stop and search for knives, what do you think would happen to knife crime in the capital? Why, that's right. Knife crime will fall and lives will be saved. Primarily, by the way, black lives. If Black Lives Matter, this is a good thing, right? Now, what do you think will happen if you were to install a left-wing lesbian in charge of the Metropolitan Police and have a mayor who is a member of a visible minority, both of whom disapprove of stopping and searching juvenile delinquents and confiscating their knives? Yes, knife crime will soar and more black lives will be lost. I give links in the description to this video both to a recent attempt to prevent the police being able to stop and search suspects and also to the statistics for knife crime in the capital. Looking at the number of knife crimes in London, we can see that while Boris Johnson was mayor and Bernard Hogan Howe was Commissioner of Police for the metropolis, both incidentally supporters of stop and search, knife crime fell sharply until it was below 10,000 offences a year. In 2016, Sadiq Khan became mayor and the following year Cressida Dick was appointed commissioner. What happened after that? Why, knife crime rocketed and in 2020 it was over 15,000 offences. It rose by 50% in just 4 years and is now standing at record levels. The number of young men, mostly black men, being stabbed to death has also risen dramatically. This is what happens when you institute policies which prevent the police from doing what they are paid for and preventing crime. If Black Lives Matter, why is there opposition to the one action which saves more black lives than any other? Curious, no? The supposed difficulty is that more black people than white were being stopped under the old methods, and this was perceived as racist. The police were using racial profiling to decide who they stopped and searched. Let me explain why this should be done. I was stopped and searched under the Terrorism Act by the police at Mile End Tube Station in 2005. Shortly after the bomb attacks on the London Underground. I was carrying a bag and they wanted to know what was in it. I cooperated, of course. I found it very good policy to do as you're told when the police ask you questions, but I thought it was absolutely mad. Did they really think that a white Englishman in his 50s was likely to be a suicide bomber? Of course they didn't. At the time, Ken Livingstone was Mayor of London and he was very down on stop and search and racial profiling. I later learned from a friend in the police that they were worried that somebody would put in a Freedom of Information request and find out the ethnicity and gender of those stopped in the hunt for suicide bombers. They accordingly chose to search lots of women as well as men, old people as well as young, white as well as Asian. This meant that more than half their stop and search episodes under the Terrorism Act were an utter waste of time. They knew very well that suicide bombers were going to be young Asian and black men, but did not dare focus on that group. Searching an old white guy was just a box-ticking exercise. This was at a time when there was a desperate need to detect any potential bombers, and yet they were playing politics for fear of being accused of racism. Lest it be thought that I'm in favour of invariably targeting black people all the time, let me give an example when using racial profiling would target white people. Let's suppose that I'm part of a police operation cracking down on burglary. Here we are, I'm patrolling the streets late at night and I'm going to stop and search people who I think might be burglars. What would I do if I saw a middle-aged Chinese guy out late at night? well, I'd ignore him, of course. Burglary is a crime committed by young working-class white men. In the same way, if I saw a Sikh, I wouldn't bother searching him either. The people I would focus on would be young white men. When left-wing people become Mayor of London, knife crime and the murder of black men goes up. When a Conservative gets in, the number of black people murdered in London falls. This is odd, isn't it? It's almost as though those supporting Stop and Search really care more about black lives in a practical sense than socialists do. I wonder if anyone can shed any light on this.